Right now, a lot of citizens are getting rounded up in this. So I don't want people to believe that this is an issue that we only need to leave to immigration. This is an issue that is impacting all of us, from a very direct standpoint of any of us potentially being rounded up, to the extent that we know that there are a lot of people that are immigrants and some that aren't, that are too afraid to take their children to school, too afraid to go to work. This is impacting us in our economy. We know that tourism is down. We really need to understand that, what affects one affects all. And we must continue to stand united.
Thank you, Congresswoman. The next question is specifically around the Epstein files. The question is, why is the Department of Justice able to break the law and withhold the Epstein files?
Well, okay, let me see. Okay, so here's the deal on the Epstein files. There are people that are absolutely functioning above the law. I will say that this administration believes that they are above the law. I have consistently made sure that I've made it clear that we need to make sure that there are going to be state and local prosecutors that are going to be at the ready once this administration is done, because I still don't know how much we'll be able to get done with this Department of Justice. They are serving in this moment, but Pam Bondi will not be the Attorney General forever. Mark my words on that. And so this is a matter of the fox protecting the hen house. That's the issue that we are dealing with now. We have no daylight between the executive branch and the Department of Justice. We have no daylight between the executive branch and the House and the Senate. We have no daylight between anybody and the executive branch. And that is why we have gathered for No Kings rallies and things like that, because really a lot of people have ceded their power over to someone who has said multiple times that he wants to be a dictator. And the only way that you can do that in a democracy is if everybody else rolls over. And so the Department of Justice is the one that would typically do the enforcement. Now, we may have some options with our courts. We know that the only reason Tish James had her charges dismissed and Comey had his charges dismissed was because the judiciary stood strong. We know that the only way that we were about to see some semblance of fairness as it relates to the state of Texas and our maps was because a Trump-appointed judge wrote a 160-page opinion. And in that opinion, he laid out why the maps were racist. And just so y'all know, because I testified in front of this 3-judge panel, I can tell you none of them were black. So I don't want y'all to think that this was a color thing. I really long for the days that our judges are just calling balls and strikes and following the law. I will tell you that there are plenty of judges that have done a lot better by us than the Supreme Court itself. The Supreme Court, in my opinion, is compromised. The Supreme Court, in my opinion, needs some supervision. And the only body that can actually provide that supervision is the Senate. The Senate is the body that oversees the Supreme Court as well as the judiciary as a whole. And we also need to think about where we stand on asking people about things such as term limits for some of these judges. I wrote a bill where we are proposing, or I'm a co-sponsor of a bill where we're proposing an 18-year term limit on judges. That's still a long time, y'all. That's a very long time, 18 years. But it would ensure that our judiciary stays fresh. It would ensure that it turns over. It would ensure that hopefully no matter, what the political winds are for that moment, that we can kind of keep the judiciary up with where the people are. So these are the questions that we should be asking about, where do you stand on term limits? Where do you stand on expanding the court? Where do you stand on some sort of ethics reform or ethics in general? Because the Supreme Court is the only court the only judges in the United States of America that have no ethics that they have to abide by, which is quite astounding. So,
Congresswoman, the next question, which is a question that came up earlier today, is around what is happening in Venezuela. The question is, what can the Congresswoman do about Trump? What can be done to stop him? He is trying to start a war with Venezuela.
yeah, so basically, for those of you that aren't aware, the president has been unilaterally deciding to kill people that are in international waters. As it relates to the killings that have taken place, they are on what many believe to be small fishermen boats. The death toll that we have, which again, you can always ask questions. The death toll that we currently have is that they've killed approximately 103 people. The president has argued that he does not need approval of the Congress, and frankly, the cowards that currently control the House and the Senate are not trying to rein him in as it relates to these actions and declare that these are amounting to war, and therefore Congress is supposed to approve that. In addition to the fact that, again, this goes back to constitutional rights. The president has argued that these are drug cartels that are trying to bring drugs to our borders. Even if that is the case, they've not made it to our borders, number one. Number two, we believe in due process in this country, which means that if you are accused of a crime, you have an opportunity to be told exactly what you're charged with and to defend against those charges. And frankly, I don't know of a state. Now, I'm not licensed in every state to practice law, but I am licensed in multiple states as well as multiple federal courts. I have never seen a law on the books, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, hit me on the live and tell me, but I've never seen a state or the federal government give anybody the death penalty for drug trafficking. I've never had anybody be charged with drug trafficking in my many years of practicing law, and death penalty was actually on as an option for punishment. So the idea that people are just being arbitrarily killed, and it doesn't seem like there is very strong evidence that these are actually people that are even committing the crimes that he's alleging that they have committed. And this is why due process matters. And this is what is supposed to separate us from other countries that aren't democracies. These are the principles that we are supposed to live by and stand by. And to be clear, before anybody says that I support the drug traffickers, I do not. I can tell you that this president, though, does actually have a track record, because this president consistently decides that he is going to pardon people, including drug traffickers. So I don't know how on one hand you're going out and you're killing people because you believe that they're drug traffickers, while others that have actually been convicted of drug trafficking and are sitting in federal custody, he's decided to let them go. Like, make it make sense. So this is not healthy for us. This is not safe for us. And that is why I am hoping that people can start to just kind of wake up and say, this isn't about Republicans or Democrats. This literally has to be about right and wrong. And frankly, he is making our country more dangerous every single day. And I think that that's why you've seen even a Marjorie Taylor Greene break away.
Thank you, Congresswoman. I want to pause and just remind individuals that if you have not subscribed, or if you are not subscribed to receive our newsletter, that you can press *6 on your keypad, and that will be able to. That way, we'll be able to grab your email and add you to our distribution list. Congresswoman, a question that we have is specifically around vaccines for children. The question is it safe to get vaccines for their children? They said, I don't trust RFK.
Okay, I'm gonna answer that in 2 seconds. But I did see a question about someone saying that they were asking, what do you do if you're a U.S. citizen and you're picked up by ICE? First of all, I would tell anyone, if you have an attorney, make sure your first call is to your lawyer. Even if it's not an immigration attorney, your lawyer will be able to identify and get an immigration attorney for you. The second phone call that I would make would be to my congressional member. Make sure that we know exactly what's going on, because we do have legislative authority to, number one, we can get into facilities, come and see, come and check on you, that kind of stuff. And, right now there have been concerns about, them not letting lawyers in and some other complaints, them not allowing people to communicate without having a certain number, all that kind of stuff. So if you are being taken in, you want to communicate with a lawyer that hopefully you already have. If you don't have a lawyer, make sure you know who your congressional member is and make sure you call their office and let them know the full information that they're asking for. And yes, so that we can track you. So that's a very important question. As far as not trusting RFK, I don't blame you. I mean, we talking about the man that's got worms on his brain. I completely get it. I will say that, the vaccines, you need to make sure that these are the same vaccines. He's not necessarily changing vaccines. Like, he ain't in the kitchen cooking. All right. So vaccines that were trusted before, they should still be good to go, because he's not mixing things up. What he's doing is he is making recommendations on which vaccines children should and should not take. I would not take his advice on the vaccines that children should take. I would take the advice of an actual doctor. So I would talk to your pediatrician and ask them. I would also obviously listen to the guidance of the schools that your children attend, as it relates to what is necessary to keep children at school safe, and what's required of the district. Now, you may have some crazy districts that don't require anything, which is how we ended up with the terrible measles outbreak, is because of some of the guidance that RFK put out there, as well as some of these school districts doing the most. And now measles, which was basically eradicated, is not. So listen to your doctors. Don't listen to RFK.
Thank you, Congresswoman. A quick question. Of course, this is our official teletown hall, but more of a technical question. Someone wants to know that, recognizing that you are running for the Senate, if you lose, will you continue to serve in Congress?
All right.
In the House, excuse me.
Okay, so we've got to get through this part. I'm on my official account, so I'm limited on things that I can say, but I can tell you that in the state of Texas, you have to pick one. And actually, that's just kind of across the board. So I will only be on the ballot for one position. That position is going to be for U.S. Senate. That means that I did not file for re-election to the U.S. House. I can tell you that, there are going to be races taking place for Texas 30, and then there's going to be a race for Texas 33. So they ended up cutting my district as it relates to strictly Democratic seats. They cut my district up. I currently reside in Texas 33, and about 500,000 of my constituents from Texas 30 are still in Texas 30. So they divvied us up, but no, I will not be in the House, but we're going to win.
Okay, our next question is about SNAP. The question is, I've heard Republicans want to cut SNAP again. How would that affect families here in North Texas?
Yeah, this is such an important question. So when you talk about cutting SNAP again, when they implemented the big ugly bill, we didn't really feel the brunt of it. So think back to how it felt when the government shut down and what was taking place with the 42 million people that are on SNAP benefits. They have decided to roll back a lot of funding for SNAP. And so there's going to be a good portion of those 42 million that will not have access to SNAP benefits going forward. They made it to where a number of these cuts will not necessarily take place immediately. They have some of these things going to affect as we get past the midterms. Surprise, surprise. But what I want to tell you is that when you think about SNAP benefits and you think about food, think about it as an ecosystem. Right now, we have people that are losing their jobs. We know that there's the reporting on Nebraska and the Tyson plant as it relates to beef. We know that in Amarillo, right here in Texas, the Tyson plant that handles beef is actually about to let people go as well. And that is because beef production is down. We have a record number of ranchers and farmers that are filing for bankruptcy. I've said this over and over. But the reason that I point this out is because when you remove the SNAP benefits, it's not a matter of that money just reappears magically. And now these people that needed that money to support them, they all of a sudden have the money. In fact, we're going to see a greater need for things such as SNAP benefits because we are experiencing this record high unemployment right now. We've got 1.1 million people that have lost their jobs at the same time in which we're reducing benefits. So once you have farmers and ranchers that are going out of business, that means that there's less food that is being produced here. By the time you get to the grocery stores, the cost of your groceries go up. They go up partially because it's almost like there's just not enough supply. It's just straight up supply and demand. They also are going up because of the tariff policies in our trade. So some of our farmers and ranchers are struggling because they're not able to export, and therefore they're just struggling to survive. And so in order for the grocery store to keep their doors open, even though now they don't have this extra money that comes from SNAP recipients, they have to increase their cost. So we are being bombarded in all ways as it relates to cost. And when you start to increase the cost of food in general, it's not just at the grocery store, it's at the restaurants as well. I was talking to one of the family-owned soul food restaurants in my district today, and they were complaining to me and telling me, now they've been around for years, and they were saying that like the person that they get their beef from is going out of business. And they were like, they can't believe it. It's not even been a full year. And that's what she was telling me. I was at another small business. Today it was Odom's. Yesterday it was, or Sunday it was Nana's in Fort Worth. And she was explaining to me how difficult it is because most of the time these restaurants, they only have a slim profit margin as it is. And they're trying to do their best because people are already struggling. So they don't want to price people out of being able to come and eat their food. But we are in a bad way. And that's not even talking about the farm bill that we are 3 years behind on. A farm bill is supposed to be for 5 years. And our farmers and ranchers have been asking for that. We really do need some real checks and balances so that we can start to check this administration for the benefit of all, not just Democrats, not just urbanites, but everybody.
Thanks, Congresswoman. The next question is around how would Medicaid cuts affect hospitals and healthcare access throughout our community?
Yeah, so the Medicaid cuts, it's much like my answer around food. They pulled $1 trillion out of Medicaid and Medicare. $1 trillion. And that was all so that they could start to pay for the tax cuts that they made permanent for very rich people. But what people don't realize is that they cut $1 trillion, but that still doesn't cover how much they gave in tax cuts to the richest amongst us, to the extent that we ended up going further into the deficit, okay? But when you remove all that money, people don't stop getting sick. They still get sick, right? They're still going to go to the hospital. In order for the hospital to keep their lights on, now they don't have Medicaid and Medicare spending the amount of money that they would normally spend. So then they spread that cost out to us. So we're going to pay more for our hospitals to stay open. So the cost of healthcare in general is going up. So we're seeing it in the healthcare premiums in general as they're bracing and preparing for that. It only got exacerbated and more complicated when they decided that those on the Affordable Care Act receiving subsidies, that they would also take those away. I mean, all we've seen, and they have said it over and over, but I'm hoping you're understanding why we keep saying that this is the largest transfer of wealth in the history of this country, because we're taking from people that really need it and we're giving it to the richest amongst us. And to be clear, the images during the shutdown were so powerful of who it is that needs, say, food assistance. There's been an image of who it is that needs food assistance, but the reality is that there's a lot of working people. In Texas, the minimum wage is $7.25. There are still people that only get paid $7.25. And therefore, they can't make ends meet. Like, they just can't make it work. And so seeing the images of people that are having to line up, having to seek out food, needing to rely upon the government to help them out a little bit, all while the people that employ them are putting more money in their pockets. I don't see how this is sustainable, and it's not. This is why, polling is clear that Republicans are starting to lose a lot of ground as it relates to the economy. It seems like they have to crash it, and then Democrats have to come in and clean it up. The last time we had a balanced budget was under Bill Clinton. And imagine your boss is already eating at 5-star restaurants, right? And now, and you literally don't know how you're going to get your SNAP benefits. And then at the same time, we're like, hey, boss, like, we're gonna find a 6-star restaurant, right? Like, we're just going, why not, right? And then the taxpayers are still going to foot the bill for you not taking care of your workers. At a very minimum, we should be requiring that they take care of their workers and that they pay them better, instead of us footing the bill both ways. We're letting you keep more money, and we're still picking up the bill because you don't want to take care of your workers. It's not right. Like, this is simple math. Like, this isn't complicated. This is about having the courage to call a thing and do what needs to be done.
So, Congresswoman, the next question that we're going to turn to is around public education. So the question is, Governor Greg Abbott recently announced a statewide push to expand Turning Point USA's chapters in schools across Texas. What is your view on public schools being directed to host a specific political advocacy organization?
Yeah, it's a no for me, obviously. And to be clear, I don't think any organization that is pushing any political agenda should be welcomed in our schools. I think that when you are, obviously on plenty of our college campuses, they've got young Democrats, they've got young Republicans, they've got all of those organizations, but mandating and pushing for specific chapters, it sounds like nothing more than a cult. And that's not what we are supposed to be pushing. I would actually advise Governor Abbott, as well as the Republicans, to do everything that they can to, number one, protect children in schools, because there are real issues, especially in Texas schools. We know that we've seen school shootings that are out of control, specifically in Texas. So if he wants to do something for our children in schools, he could start there. He also could make sure that they get a real history lesson, which he's obviously decided that he doesn't want them to have. We should be teaching an accurate history so that hopefully people aren't doomed to repeat it, much like this tariff situation that we found ourselves in. maybe if the people in charge had maybe studied up on history a little bit, then they'd know that this isn't a good move. And the final point that I'll make specifically about our schools in Texas, and one of the things that was really devastating that came from the state level, was this voucher scam that he has decided that he wanted to move into, which defunds our public schools that are overseen by elected officials that come from the community, and taking those dollars and then placing those dollars into private schools. No matter how much money you may have, you can get a voucher, right? And take that money away from the public school and put it into this private school that is not required to admit your child. It is truly devastating when our public school teachers are already struggling to make ends meet. Many of them are always dedicating more to this job than the job will ever give to them. A lot of times having to come out of their own pockets. And so I think that there's a lot that the governor could do to help our children. Putting Turning Point USA into the classrooms and into the schools is not one of them.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Next question is, how do you explain record corporate profits alongside stagnant wages?
I think that is the answer. You keep your wages down and you just keep taking. I will say that I feel like we were making some progress under the previous administration, regardless how you feel about the Biden-Harris administration. You got to give credit where credit is due. And we know that President Biden was the most union-friendly president that we've ever had. And so when you see collective bargaining, you essentially see the power of coming together. You see the power of unity. A theme I've been trying to hit. We got to stay unified, y'all. But you see that, and you saw some of these record-breaking kind of deals that have been made, whether it was in the auto industry, whether it was deals that the Teamsters were able to secure. We saw this, and so we saw where they were able to get wages to go up. And frankly, even those, say, in the auto industry that were not in positions where they were unionized, they saw their wages go up because the thing is, they need to remain competitive, right? So it helps everybody. This is just good policy. So we were making progress, and now all that's rolled back because the protections, whether we're talking about union protections in the federal government or otherwise, this administration, along with the Republicans in the House and the Senate, have saw fit to remove any of those protections and remove the ability to collectively bargain. It is a lot easier to say raise the wage when there's a whole group of people that are saying this is what we're going to do, and if you're not going to do it, then we out, versus one person at a time trying to get it done. So I do think union busting is part of the problem. And the other part is just that we got people that are greedy. I mean, I remember there was a report that came out, and y'all can Google this, during the campaign for president, and Kroger admitted that they were price gouging. They admitted basically that they were blaming things on inflation, and it really wasn't, and that they were in fact price gouging. And so I do believe that we were experiencing some of that. I don't know that I believe we currently are. Obviously I'm not getting as accurate reporting under this administration, but knowing that most companies, if they have good sense, recognize the current economic environment, they should be doing everything to keep costs as low as possible so that they can keep their doors open, because people just don't have the money. What we're going to see is people just holding on to money. We'll see what the numbers look like as it relates to y'all shopping for Christmas. We know that travel has been consistent and has been consistently high, which freaks me out a little bit because I don't trust this administration as it relates to our transportation. But every time I'm in the airport, I speak to TSA workers, I speak to usually supervisors, I speak to law enforcement at the airports. And I'm usually asking them, like, what's travel looking like? You know, people that have been doing this for some time. And y'all are outside. That is for sure. But I think that there is still kind of this longing to be together, especially the harder the times get. I don't know if y'all are really spending as much money. So I'd be interested to see what the reports look like as it relates to Christmas. Y'all tell me, have y'all been spending money a lot, or are y'all kind of going lean for Christmas? I'd be curious to know.
So, Congresswoman, we're going to try to squeeze in a couple of more questions.
That means I got to go fast. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. So, this next question is, the administration just announced that they're cutting 35,000 jobs at the VA. Do you think these cuts could impact care at the Dallas VA?
Oh, absolutely. The Dallas VA is one of the largest VAs in the country. I'm proud to be the congresswoman for the Dallas VA, and thank you so much to all of our service members, both veterans as well as our current service members, especially in this time. We already know, in fact, I've done a couple of investigations as it relates to care at the VA and wanting to get reports from the Inspector General about the depletion of care, how many people are just getting surgeries canceled, getting rescheduled, and really trying to get a good grasp on what is happening. But with us having one of the largest VAs in the country, I know for sure that these cuts are going to impact us. It's a shame, but when you look at someone's budget, that tells you where their priorities lie. And right now, it seems like the only people that are being prioritized either have the last name Trump, or they are the one percenters, or they are people that know how to gas the president up and make him happy.
Our next question is, the Trump administration recently announced it will start garnishing wages from people who are in default on student loan debt. Do you think this will help solve our student loan crisis?
Absolutely not. There's no way that this is going to help solve the crisis. Again, just so that we can level set on this particular issue. When it came to student loan forgiveness, I remember being on the trail and being critiqued because people felt like the Biden-Harris administration did not go far enough on student loan debt forgiveness. I will tell you that the former Secretary of Education, Cardona, he was amazing and he understood the real struggles. This was someone who came from a classroom setting, so he absolutely had the experience. He knew what the struggles were, and so we had the SAVE Act that was able to reduce payments. They went through a lot to recalculate who it was that should qualify for the student loan forgiveness under the fact that they had engaged in public service for 10 years. So they recalculated, got a lot of people off. They were trying to do whatever they could to make it manageable. They even were working on a way of recalculating how your student loans hit your credit to the extent to give you more accessibility to the ability of buying a home so that your student loan debt would not hold you down and prevent you from being able to do so. Unfortunately, this administration believes in kicking people while they're down. I don't really have another explanation for why it is that the few people that are working, because again, we've lost 1.1 million jobs, as we've already talked about, wages being stagnant, yet prices going up. I don't know why then you would be going and garnishing people's wages at this moment. Especially if we're talking about people that are, having to adjust to the fact that you did not want to allow them to be in the lower repayment category that they were in. It just seems cruel and callous. I don't really have an explanation. If somebody has some sort of explanation that they think makes sense, then great. But the fact that we're going to try to get our dollars to support this government, whether it's to put over $200 million into the president's pockets, as he believes he's entitled to money because he believes he was aggrieved in being charged for being a criminal, or whether we're talking about the fact that he decided to arbitrarily send $40 billion to Argentina, or if we're talking about the fact that Kristi Noem decided she needed 2 brand new private jets, or he needed a new gifted from Qatar jet, Air Force One, that then we have to spend over $1 billion to outfit and make sure that it's secure. Or if we're just paying for his golfing visits that are racking up crazy amounts of money. I just don't think that it makes sense that this is the place that you're going to go and get the money to pay for these things. I just don't. I think that it would have made more sense to go ahead and have corporations and rich people pay their fair share. And I want to be clear. I have talked to rich people that are okay with paying their fair share. Okay. So not everybody is some slimy person that doesn't care about everyone else. We've seen Jeff Bezos' ex, McKinsey, who has invested record amounts of money into HBCUs in this moment. So I do want y'all to understand that there are rich people that are absolutely saying the same thing. Tax me if it means that our society is going to be better off. It is okay. I am willing to pay my fair share. And then you have pricks that look like the Trumps, whether we're talking about, his son now having federal contracts in spaces that he's never operated in and taking money from the federal government, or if we're talking about the fact that we pay Elon Musk, last time I checked, $8 million a day. Like, why are we stealing or making life harder for people that obviously needed a loan so that they could move up in their station? And instead of going and finding this money somewhere else, this is where we decide to find it. We decide to find it with the people that are trying their best to pay their student loans back, the people that are on Medicaid and Medicare, the people that are on SNAP benefits. Do you see a theme in what is happening?
So, Congresswoman, that unfortunately is our last question. So, we're going to turn it to you for any closing remarks you have.
Yeah. So I just want to say, after we just had this very long, hour-long talk for my last teletown hall of the year, I know that it seems so bleak. I know. And I just got done running it down for you because I don't know how to do anything other than be real with you. But I want you to stay encouraged. I truly believe, as I've been saying over and over and over, that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. I believe that, y'all. And we are seeing glimmers of that, right? We're seeing the elections that are taking place. We're seeing that people are frustrated. We're seeing the people coming together in their communities to protect their neighbors as ICE is going out and grabbing them. We're seeing people coming together for no kings. We are seeing people come together and saying enough is enough. And so, unfortunately, I don't want, I never would have wished any of this on any of us. But I do hope that we're paying attention. I do hope that we are prioritizing ourselves and our futures in this moment. I do hope that we recognize that, again, it may seem like all gloom and doom, but I promise you, on the horizon, there is so much to be hopeful for because we are going to come together. This may be one of the hardest lessons we've ever had to learn, But I hope that we understand the importance of our voices and that we stay engaged in whatever way that looks like it. Whether it means that you're showing up to Congress and you're talking to the members that serve you, or whether you're showing up to city council, you're showing up to the county judge and hollering at him and the county executive, depending on where you live, or whether you're showing up to the state legislature or the school boards. Just understand that we work for you. And so it is so important that you continue to hold our feet to the fire, that you continue to show up, that you continue to ask questions, and that you continue to press for the type of future that you know you deserve. Do not sit anything out. That is all I've got to tell you, is that they are afraid of you, and that is why they will try to tell you all kinds of stuff. Oh, all parties are the same. Or they'll try to tell you your vote not going to count anyway. Or they'll try to tell you that, this person is a phony. I need you to keep your eye on the prize. I need you to understand what is at stake. And I need you to decide that this is our country and that we will be better than what we look like right now. And we will only be able to do that if we all dedicate ourselves to being involved today and tomorrow and the day after, because future generations are counting on us. So God bless you all. Have a very Merry Christmas. And I just want to sign off by sending a heavenly happy birthday to my grandmother, who truly was my biggest fan. I miss her and I love her every single day. But I know that she's with me and she's always looking down and she's laughing at some of these lies about me stealing her money and stuff that they put out there. Never happened, but I miss my granny every single day. And so if you still have your grandparents, please love on them, especially in this moment. Love on your parents, love on your kids. Let's spend Christmas tuning out a little bit and tuning into the people that matter the most and realizing what the reason is for the season.